My friend,
Hey boss, how you doing?
I'm good, man. How you doing? You right?
I'm good, I'm good, I'm
Oh,
good.
come on now, come on now. You look very relaxed, I must say. So I don't even, I don't even have to wonder how you doing, man. I can see you already relaxed, man. I hope your week has been okay.
Yeah. Just, can't complain, can't complain. Just uh, before I joined um, and I got home, I noticed one of my favorite shows, Knight Rider, is showing. I don't know if you know about Knight Rider. When I was a kid, there's a show called
Not
Knight
right?
Rider.
Yeah. uh,
Yeah,
how's the family?
but can't complain. Lovely. All is wonderful. How about you?
Yeah, we all good, man. We all good. Um,
Good.
I just let me just see. We got some comments coming through here. I don't know who's Robert. Hey, Robert, getting excited there. How are you doing, sir? Mr. Robert? Yes, you are well. Well, gentlemen, good to be back. It's that time again. And
Yep.
we are excited to hang out once again and just come and sharpen one another and just to make sure that we keep the momentum going because sometimes it can be like, oh man, uh, the year is gone. And
Yes.
bro, it's Christmas, man.
Yes. Yeah. They've been
It's
trying to do
Christmas.
that since August, but now it's there in your face.
Yeah, it is. It is. But yeah, it's a good time to hang out with the family and just spend some quality time and
Very
have
important.
the big celebrations and and do what we gotta do to make sure that we create some great memories.
Very
And
important. Yep.
and some good time together. Um, but yeah, so last week we had an amazing session. I must say, Mr. Jordan did an amazing job.
Yes.
Man, I don't know if you can still remember what the guy was touching on and was talking about resilience. And I believe resilience should be part of our. Let me just add him here. Let me add him on here quickly. Mr. Jordan.
Good
Good
day,
day,
Hey.
sir.
sir. How are
Gentlemen.
you doing?
Good. How you doing?
Yeah, we are winning. We're winning. How about
Excellent.
yourself? You well?
Yeah. No, we're having a good day today.
Yes,
No
sir. Yes,
complaints. Yeah, it's
yes, sir. That's good. Family okay?
yeah. Everyone's okay.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I was just kind of like just quickly doing a like a mini recap and just reminding everyone, the brilliant points that you brought up last week when we spoke about resilience. And resilience should be a way of life because life has a habit to test us whether we really want what we're after. And
Mm.
sometimes we if not all the time we bump into some resistance. We say we gotta go after this one thing and then we go and boom, we knock into um, disappointment and the question come up, shall I keep on going or shall I just give up? Because the only time that we really lose, the only time that we really uh, you know losing the battle is when we give up. um, and I like what you said last week. I kind of like had listened to it again, um, where you mentioned about our ability to recover quickly because life happens, but sometimes it takes us a while, to recover, and we get stuck in our heads, isn't it? It's like you think, oh, I should have done this. Oh, if I just didn't do this, then this shouldn't have happened. No, just recover quickly and be resilient and keep moving. So this evening, sir, we are excited to hear once again what you bring to the table, and I'm like all ears. I've got my notepad here, my pen ready, and good to go. So without any further delay, we'll just hand it over to you and let us know where you're taking us today. You're on mute, yeah? You're on mute and going live.
There you go. Yeah,
Yeah, there you are.
it's a rookie mistake. Hey? We have lots of Zoom meetings now, and it happens to many people, at least to one person on every call at work. start talking.
Yeah. Okay.
We're told they have to get off mute. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been a good week, busy week. But
Yeah.
I think the interesting thing about our discussions is there's no end to the topics that come up. So I think since we started, you could take anything and it could be sort of expanded upon, and there's more and there's overlaps between what we mentioned each call. But today I sort of wanted to just talk about specifically creativity and how unique creativity is for us as humans, and the ability God gave us to be creative. And sometimes we, I guess I'm also guilty of that we don't explore enough. Because like you say, we can get stuck in what we think is where our limits are and where we should reach out. Hi, Chidozi. We're just starting, just giving an introduction on the topic around creativity. And I think for us as human beings, I think we are born creative, but it is something we have to exercise and explore our whole lives through. We can't stagnate or stop on that one, because I don't think you can easily be taught creativity. Because I wanted to find out a bit more, because there's a lot of people who are creative in different ways. But it's not a topic that gets talked about a lot, you know. We all talk about talent. Yes, you've got talent in this area and that area. And if you think about, say, your children or your nephews or family, young people who grow up, you can sometimes see a lot of talent in different areas, and because they might not have the experience, you might tell them, listen, you must actually go down this avenue or down this road with your creativity, because there's something there that can branch out. And we see a lot more changes in job specifications as well. I think when I was younger, I studied graphic design. Did my first year, and I could draw very well because I had a good, I guess, imagination, and I get good skills in terms of presenting that on what I see on like a 2D piece of paper. So all through school, I could illustrate what was in my head, even to the point where if something comes to mind, I can draw it. And I learned to do shading and give it not just like the stick. We all start off with a stick man, draw a circle, and then the limbs. But I guess if you take that further and you use a bit of creativity, you can probably add more to that. And I don't know if it's still the case today, but the Marvel characters and all, Superman, Spider-Man, that was all part of what we grew up with. And we had the comics, and I was quite fond of drawing those comics, those characters in the comics. So when I had an exam, I would finish the exam, and if there was time left, I would draw Marvel characters. But I guess that's probably a typical boy thing to do. I don't know if boys still do that today, but there you go. But that creativity, I think, can expand into other areas in your life, and as life goes on, to not stagnate. So if a new creative idea comes along, that might take you in a different direction. But I think I'm never surprised to see how creative people can be. And if you go to an art gallery, for instance, and you see various artists' work, you see everyone's got a different technique, a different medium they use. and you know, if you watch all their work, it follows a similar trend, and it's unique to that person. So it's all those kind of things coming together. So I just wanted to sort of ask your view on creativity, because it's not just art, it's not just music, you know, there's so many other areas. But I think for life itself, that God gave us that ability to be creative should be enough to keep us always with an appetite to explore and to create new things out of the ideas that come to our mind. But first, it starts with an idea. You might not have the skill, but in your mind, you get triggered on something, and you might have to explore that further. Just generally want to find out what your views are, your own experiences, and what you think of creativity, and how it could change your life or has changed your life, or what you think it could still mean for you in the future. Because I think to be creative, you have to be spontaneous sometimes, and you have to go with it. Otherwise, you won't know where that exploration takes you. Yeah, so anybody on the floor, you're welcome to share some ideas on that.
Okay, I'll jump in, seeing that I came last. So apologies, guys. I was fit everything into the evening. The day is not long enough. But thank God we're here. All right, very, very interesting topic. It's very, it's very interesting when we look at creativity and we try and merge that with talent and so on. Obviously, it's natural that you would be creative in the areas that you have talents in. That's normally what happens. But it's not just enough to have the talent. You have got to, there are things that we need to do to make sure that our bodies are working optimally. That is where we can then be able to display that talent properly, whether it's exercise, whether it's our, our spiritual life, whether it's continuing to put in effort, because, you can have talent, but expertise comes with practice. So you've got to push in that direction. But when it comes to things like creativity, there's a very, very important aspect and a very, very important tool that will really trigger creativity. And I'll just call maybe two tools. So the first one is communication. And the second one is boldness. Communication in the sense that most creativity is driven by being able to communicate. Not just keeping hold of only what you know, but being able to go out there. I've combined it with boldness because it takes a lot to meet someone today and strike up a conversation and become curious, to know a little bit more about them, to get their own worldview of things. Because this is where creativity really, really comes from. When we're able to go out there and maybe travel, meet new people, watch how people do things differently. Just sit in the corner. Most of the organizations that are flying today, they invest a lot of money in watching how their customers interact with their products, whether it's by setting up people in the shops or by putting in some Clinton will know what this is, snippets. What are they called again? Gadgets, something jets on the website that you're able to use to track customer behavior. And that way it informs their creativity. Now they will change their website, they will come up with brand new products, and you're thinking, oh, these guys are amazing. They're very, very creative and so on and so forth. But it didn't come from them sitting down in a room and drawing things and saying, oh, we did that, next we're going to do that. They actually go out there, invest money, and employ some form of communication skills, and then bring that back home and say, this was what we thought this would do. This is what it's doing. If it's in your personal work, personal craft that you're doing, if you're not able to go, maybe if you're an artist, which is one of the examples that you've used tonight. If you're an artist, it's very important that you go out there and see how people do things. How, if you're in business and you're looking to raise money, you need to go out there and find out, how do you guys raise money? How do you speak to the investors to enable you to get money? No matter how many lectures, no matter how many books you have read, trust me, if you're able to go out there and be bold to ask the right questions, you will get brand new ideas. And the people who really shine, who we respect as very creative, are people who have these skills, who do not believe that they know it enough. They do their own research, they put themselves in a prime position, but they don't stop there. They then move out and have a lot of cross-pollination of ideas. And it's that cross-pollination that then takes what they have to the next level. And that's where you start seeing the Newtons talking about achieving what they achieved by standing on the shoulders of the giants. If nobody says that to you, then you think, oh, this guy is amazing. It's amazing. It's really, really good. But there are certain things that they have to do to go out there to get what they need and then cross that with what they have. And it becomes much more than one single person's view of creativity. That's what I'd like to share, at least to start us out with. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Chidozie. That's some really good insight. Anybody else? There's, I think, 4 topics I'll touch on. I just wanted to find out if there's anything you want to share on creativity, maybe your own experiences.
All right. I don't know if you want me to go, Mr. Rishi. All right. What I would, man, this is really good. And what I would like to say on this one is everybody is creative. I believe we are born, because if you look at the word being creative, we are creators. It's not something that we're trying to do. It is in our DNA. But I think most of us suppress that by not really tapping into our creativity, because we are made in the image of God, and He is the creator. And so, which means whenever we come up, sometimes we have new exciting ideas, but we don't actually tap into or actually decide to actually move on those ideas. It might be for different reasons, maybe because the thought that you have might come across, all right, this look foolish. Because one of the things I think for us to be really creative is like we must be willing to look foolish. We must be. You have to have a level of courage that will cause you to step out and do things that does not make sense to those around you. And there's something. There's a word that popped out while Chidozie was just sharing, and it's like curiosity, because we have to be curious enough to ask ourselves, what would happen if I just do this? What would happen if we try this or we try that? Nobody has tried it before. There's no record showing that it has ever worked before. But what if we have a go at it? And I think if we kind of like have that kind of boldness, that kind of courage, then we will be able to come up with stuff that we never even realized that is on the inside of us. Because I think society is working in such a way that it stifles our creativity. Because we always think, all right, what are they going to think if I do this? But when I do that, I'm actually stopping myself from being creative, because everybody has the tendency to move in the same direction, doing the same kind of thing. Let me see what he's doing so that I can copy what he's doing, what she's doing, so that we can, instead of like, all right, what is in my head? It might sound or come across as a silly idea, but what if I just try? and do something that make me look foolish. So so I think that's in terms of creativity. I think all of us, we are creators. That's who we are, and we can create things that we never even thought possible. Especially in times when when we are you know, when we have our back against the wall. That's when creativity actually have to kick in, because sometimes the normal solutions or the thing that got you into trouble is not it's not what's going to get you out. You and I are going to have to be creative, think differently, compared to the normal way of thinking to get us out of certain situations. um, yeah, that's my bit on that.
Thanks,
Okay.
Mr. Clinton.
All right. So we had curiosity. We've got the back against the wall. So I'm going to say isolation. Creativity needs isolation. It needs you to, you see, from the time we are born, we are schooled in a particular direction of conformity. Creativity does not conform to anything, but it needs your utmost attention. So it's interesting when you look at kids. I look at my son, and sometimes I think this guy is just getting a little bit too noisy, but he's playing, and he's playing by himself. And his brain is going, and he's got the toys out, and you know, this toy is this one, and that one is doing that, and he's got this whole world sorted out. Trust me, and it's very organized for the moment. Yeah, he's going. But for him to do that, he's not happy doing that in front of mommy, daddy, this and that person. He finds his corner, and he is doing voices. The man is doing, sometimes I think, well, what are you going to be? Comedian, scientist, doctor? Because there's all of this going on. Where I'm coming from is that everyone is obviously different. We're unique. And you're correct when you said creativity comes from the word create. But in order for you to, history tells us, and the Bible tells us the same thing in terms of historical moments in the Bible. History tells us that all of the great inventors have encountered or naturally went through isolation. And this isolation is not in a negative way. It's a way in which they found their best environment, their best moment to nurture that thing for which they know not about, but they feel. And they have this strong sense that I must spend some time with this. You know, some of us simply say, you've got a eureka moment, and then they nurture that. So the question is to a lot of us, are we just going through life confirming, or are we truly giving ourselves the chance to be creative, to nurture that creativeness in us? Do we get bogged down with life so much that we don't take the time out? And we take this for granted. Look at many moments when Christ Jesus was on earth, according to the Bible, and he had to deal with some very important stuff. He didn't only take a walk to spend time with the Father. He took a walk to take care of what he needed to take care of in that particular moment, mentally, spiritually, but it was a way, isolation. It was always away. And whenever there was a very serious thing that he had to deal with, obviously everything was serious, because once a human is involved, it's absolutely serious for him. But there are times when he literally decided, I don't have to go. But you look at the steps purely before he can speak with that amount of authority and power. It resulted from time of isolation. So what I would say to us, sometimes we may deal with aspects of life where you did not intend for it to happen, but it was intentional for the moment, for your journey. Isolation somehow came about, but rather than taking hold of isolation as a tool, we took hold of it as something detrimental to us, which meant we reacted to it as though it was stress, as though it was. So I am spinning the coin in a different direction to say, yes, we need to recover from some stuff. However, like anything else I've learned very seriously over the last couple of weeks, in every single thing, seek God, pray. Because we really got to take note of certain things that are happening in our lives, as to just remember you are at the right place at the right time according to God, whether it's your making or not. But how should you react and move in that particular time is super important. So if you feel isolated for some reason, you have no interest of talking to people and all of this, it's not happening forever. But you pick it up on a different coin as you being depressed and diagnosed with all a list of the negatives. Hold on. Is it just life telling you for a moment, hey, you've got a big thing ahead of you. I need you here, right now here. Prepare, pick up that book, read, do this, do that, do that. And if you action those particular points, I'm not saying in that order because everybody's different. It may be different what you need to do in that particular moment. I use those as examples just to try to illustrate. You find 2-3 weeks down the road, when you would have completely come out of that moment, could be a long moment, short moment, let's call it that. And boom, you get a phone call, contract lands in your email, you are chatting to somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody else that you didn't even know that thing was already set up. And they say, blah, blah, blah. You're like, you know what? Actually, I was reading about that stuff last week. Listen, I'm good to go. But if you did not grab that, so I would say in our intentional moves forward, keep growth at your forefront of your mind, even when your back is against the wall. And don't become so rigid in formality and conformity that you don't allow yourself to dream and be creative. And, this is why it's so important, that isolation. It could be sitting, it could be walking. Every single time it was Christ going up the mountain. He's going on the other side of something. He's going away. Yeah. So let me put right there. So I spin that there to say to you, a lot of you look at stories about Bill Gates and lots of other people, and you see, now I'm not saying to copy this because it caused them a lot of other issues. Some people overdo it. But apparently Bill Gates used to have a different country houses, or some country house or somewhere he used to go away to. No wife, kid, dog, cat, nothing. Nobody goes there. But that's what the stories say. And he would lock away. And that's where he would have his moments to come up with, whether it's its foundation, the business, whatever. Yeah. You've got lots of other signs. Einstein was one, locked away many times. Yeah. The people who did the clock, the people who did the plane, all of these stuff. History tells us this, and the Bible tells us something exactly quite similar. So I'm not saying copy anybody. I'm saying that inner voice in you, which is the Holy Spirit, that tells you. Now, if you're not a Christian, you're not up with the Holy Spirit sort of talk, that's cool. But I can guarantee you, you normally hear, especially women will say, something told me. Not somebody, something. Okay. And they go, let's call it your sixth sense. Run with it. And allow that to, but don't become so confirmed that, like Kendrick said just now, you've got to be prepared to be vulnerable, to look foolish, to sound foolish. So that's my contribution on that.
That's awesome, Clinton. Yeah, really valuable insight into flipping the coin and seeing it from a side that's actually fundamental. Because life can be so busy, and if you don't take time out, because I was just laughing a bit when you mentioned your son, because it reminds me of me when I was maybe his age, and I had Lego, but I didn't have a lot of pieces, right? But I think over time, I really, as I got them as presents, and then you lose half of it, and I think now you get the whole theme with the Lego. But when I had Lego, you had odd bits and pieces, and you had to just be creative to put them together to create whatever you wanted. And I remember my mother telling me later years, she would sometimes wonder why the house is so quiet and where I am. And when for hours, she's maybe being in the house and she hasn't heard from me. And then I'm busy with the Lego and just quietly playing around and being creative, I guess. But yeah, that's something that it is stranger, because I would probably think about being inhibited to think about things if my mom was in the room or other people were present. So isolation, absolutely agree with you on that. That creativity can really come through there. And I also wanted to find out what the Bible says and what God says, because God is a creative God, isn't it? And in fact, he's invented creativity because he's created us, and creativity is part of us. And it was his idea. So I think creativity is part of the very nature and the character of God. And I think even in Genesis, we know the whole creation story. There was also a time for rest. Because I think if you're creative all the time, and we've all done it, where we're so busy, let's say with work, and you've got a problem to solve and you're really going at it and thinking, if it goes on for too long, you have to stop yourself and say, I need some time out to think, because either you're not getting a breakthrough or you're not having that energy you had when you started. And sometimes you have to revisit it and come back, give it a bit more thought and go away. And I think that's something, because you can build on it. You gain experience, and creativity can actually help you to improve on a solution that you're already working on. And I think even in the dictionary, it says it's a phenomenon whereby something new and valuable is formed. And the created item may be intangible or a physical object, but I think it's fundamentally everything you mentioned, each one of you is unique to see what each person's perspective is. And I'm sure there's other people with also varied perspectives and ideas that can be added to creativity. But I always think of creativity as something that brings joy. Because if you're in your own element, it's a unique thing that you're experiencing. And yes, you can show other people afterwards, but to be creative, you sort of do it on your own. And then the idea actually goes out, and then you share it with others. But it starts with you. And if you get a breakthrough through being creative, you can also problem solve by doing that. So if a problem arises and you have to find a solution, your creativity steps in again. So I think the whole nature around the topic of creativity is something that's something I think is both good and necessary. And let's say you, for instance, if you play a music instrument, and most people start with one, but let's say over time you become so good at it and it becomes second nature, and you end up playing in a band, but you can't play what the instrument your friend is playing or the other person. So your inquisitiveness might mean, yes, if you're creative, you'll actually try the other instrument. And then there's no stopping, is there? But people have their favorites. You ask them, you play guitar, why don't you play piano? No, they just like guitar, which is fine. But imagine you told yourself, well, I'm open for anything and I'm going to learn the other instruments as well. And then I don't think you can get bored. If you're a person who's creative, you shouldn't be a person that's bored. Like our pastor normally used to mention his son when his son came to him and says he's bored, he doesn't know what to do. He would say, no, you're not bored, you're boring. Because if you're bored, there's always something to do. But you shouldn't let other people tell you what to do. In that moment, you should be creative enough to do the things that came to mind that you never had the chance to do yet. So that's how I think. So if you have spare time and you don't know what to do, just give creativity a chance and explore things you haven't done before. And I've recently been thinking quite a lot about I think somebody mentioned, whether it's Chidozi or Clinton or Kendrick, about tunnel vision. You get so busy with something or some process in your life or some achievement you want to get to that you stagnate and you got blinkers on. And if you explore a bit further, you find the world's actually very big. Just recently, I've been working on projects in other countries, quite more than I would usually do. And I met people in our office who have secondments coming from other countries. And I find out about all these other places that I knew the country was there, but I didn't know there's this town and how the town is. And you look at then the names that the towns are given, and they might have similar names in the UK, might have similar names. And if you look at colonial countries especially, you find things were named the same name in different countries. But the people who gave those names, they couldn't be creative enough to give it a brand new name. They just gave it a name for something that reminds them of what they knew before. But the world is so big that there's so much out there if we want to be creative. We sometimes stop ourselves from reaching out, from getting that goal, and exploring that area that we never thought we were capable of. So I think the other interesting thing is I'll try to find out a bit of information. I'll just try and expand a bit more about the types of creativity. And when I did some research on it, it's very basic, but there's the common theme that comes up is 4 different types. Is deliberate creativity, spontaneous creativity, emotional, and cognitive. So I think attention is related to, I guess, retrieval of effective memory. So if you can remember things, then your insight depends upon specific emotions and things that conform to you as a person. But that can be deliberate because you've got it in the back of your mind. You've had the experience before, and you're quite deliberate about how you want to go about it. If it's spontaneous, let's say you've got a quiet moment and you don't really plan to do anything, but something comes to mind and you immediately act on it. And I guess if you're working on your memory after an intense emotional activity or experience, you probably act in a very spontaneous way. But I think there's so much research around this topic. It's too much to cover, I guess, tonight in any detail. But for me, creativity was never something to be planned. The one that jumps out for me is spontaneity. It's to be spontaneous. Because let's face it, if you're tired and you had a long day, you just want to go sleep and rest. You're not in the mood to think or be creative, is it? But if you're energized and you've got time in your hands, that's the time when you tell yourself, let me try this, or let me do the next thing and see where this leads. So creativity is something that is so unique to us as human beings that we should explore it more. And I think it's a really good thing to fill all the gaps in your spare time and in your life that you tell yourself you don't know what to do next. And it doesn't have age limits. It doesn't have, whether you're male or female, whether you're young or old, your kids. I just saw on the news tonight, and I guess if something works for you and you enjoy it, and it's a good thing that enriches your life, I think you should keep on with it and just not have an end. Because what do people do when they retire? I know some people at work who struggle who I've met up with after retirement, and yes, they can say they've enjoying retirement, but they've been so involved with the work they do that they actually miss the work. And then, but they're at the age where and then people say, well, you should be enjoying life now. So haven't you been enjoying life while you were working? And I think your creativity should be a balance of the things you're forced to do and the things you're not forced to. And create that balance in life where you can take up hobbies and do the other things that it's just spontaneous and you enjoy it. So on the news tonight, we had, I think, a 96-year-old man who still cycles, and he holds the world record for cycling the furthest and the fastest on a track. And they asked him to give some advice. And he had a lot to say. He had, normally people have a few minutes, and he had quite a few minutes on the air. And now I think when people get to that age, they give you probably the best information. They don't play around, it's very sincere and very direct. And he says, yes, healthy body. Well, at the end, he says, healthy body, healthy mind. And then he's finished, But towards the start in the middle, he mentions that he's been married for 64 years with his wife. He's always kept healthy. He never smoked. He had the odd pint. Does have his beers when his friends come out, but he doesn't overdo it, because how's his health going to end up if he overindulge in alcohol? Always wanted to keep healthy. He did cycle. Him and his wife, she passed away, but they had quite a good life. And he carries on with cycling. During the winter, he has his cycle equipment set up, like Peloton or whatever, in his house. The weather is bad. And when it gets to spring and he can get on the track, he does 30 minutes once, 20 to 30 minutes once a day of cycling. And he still keeps on. And then he joined a cycling club as well. So he's got his friends at the cycling club. He's got probably people he cycled with, who knows, 30 years by given his age. But he's found something that really is good for his health, enhancing his mental health. He's got his social life, and he's long time retired. But at the end, he does say, healthy body, healthy mind, not the other way around. So I think it's a combination of doing something with our creativity and looking at our mind and our body and the health on both sides, our mental health and our physical health. So if you're into skydiving or things like that, who knows? You might not reach 96, but you'll probably have some good times up there in the air. Because I'm not good with heights. That's something I won't really go into myself. But thanks guys for sharing everything.
Thank you very much. You need to go and check the statistics. It's very, very low for Black people. We don't do that. Life is too precious. That's dirty.
But I think we do have we're in a changing world. There's technology now. When I did some research on augmented reality and virtual reality, what really sprung to mind, because I got into it because I wanted to get involved with a bit more insight into what can we do with 3D information and models. And yes, this seems like new technology. We've read about it. But if you think about it, I then came across a friend who asked me about cycling indoors, because we didn't always enjoy the wet weather and getting out with your gear. But you could get the video footage of anywhere in the world, like a famous cycle, and project it onto your television. And the next step is to get augmented reality and virtual reality goggles, so you feel like you're in the place where that video footage is shot in 3D. So as you cycle and speed up, everything goes faster past you. So there shouldn't be a limit in the future as you can do skydiving, but actually lay on your dining room mat, and still experience.
Maybe.
There's no real risk there.
Maybe that one. Maybe that one.
I think technology is gonna take us there. We can then do anything on the bucket list and still be waking up the next morning
Safe.
I am laughing because the funny thing now, if the thing says, you go lie down on the dinner table, and the skydiving thing showing that you're going down, how much 100,000 feet mountain or something, and you only realize you're screaming, going whatever, and then you realize you just fall from the table to the floor. Can just imagine getting up and breathing so hard. You only went from the top of the table to the floor.
Interesting. You might get to where you're going.
I've seen some interesting. You know what's funny, guys? On a very light note,
Interesting. Gonna be
I've
good.
seen these 3D glasses thing. They put them in public, yeah, for
Mhm.
people to go and try out stuff, especially when they're
Yeah.
introducing something that they came up with.
Mhm.
And you've seen people walk straight into the screens and knock down the whole thing. This is in Westgate, you know, the shopping center when they sell these out,
Yeah.
and they have to hold the person and take off the thing and because they just keep going.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Sorry, guys, I just have to say. Oh man.
Yeah.
You know what, Andrew? Thank you. This stuff on creativity is very huge, and
Mhm.
it's all wonderful. I think just reminding anybody looking at this is that all of this is encompassed around the stuff of growth. All the various things we speak about, and so yes, you're gonna have negative moments. You're gonna have tough moments, but the ultimate decision lies with you, the person. How are you going to choose to respond to this? What are you going to do with it? And we're talking about moments. And how you allow your moment to evolve. Creativity sits firmly in that sphere. And the things that you feel as a human, just remember you are human. You're allowed to feel sad. You're allowed to feel happy. You're allowed to have all these various things because they're emotions, they're chemicals. You will react to certain things. But like when we started and Kendrick was recapping and he said, is how quick you can recover. How quick can you recover from being overjoyful to being balanced again? Where you can really, how can you recover from being, how quickly can you recover from being ultimately, I mean, you can walk into a room, you know, the most happy and zealous person and all of that. And then one or two persons, or one person just mentions about the death of somebody, and then the whole thing turns to a sad moment. How quickly can you recover from that? You as a person, you might not be strong enough to help somebody to recover from that while you mentally recover from that moment. Have you had moments when you sat down and you look at the news or you look at TV and you realize this is not good for me? It's taking me in the wrong direction. How quickly do you recover from that? So I think on these discussions that we have, whoever's looking at it, there's so many things that you can take away from this and go and I think remember as humans, we are given the choice and the power to make the most of our moments. Let them count. When you're young, you might say you have the world of time, but as you get old, especially you have responsibility, become a parent, you'll come to realize, like Chidozi said, there's just not enough hours in the day. Right? How do you be creative like this, like now? And that's where times when you've got to decide, it's not just you getting up in the morning just to have devotion by yourself to get your brain going and hear from God, but also you giving yourself enough time. Might just mean 3 minutes extra. It might just mean 5 minutes. That's how it comes very quickly. Yeah, you relax, happy, and boom, something comes. You think on it, boom, and before you know it. So yeah, bit of encouragement from that wonderful, wonderful Andrew. Thank you.
Thanks, Vincent. Kendrick, Chidozi, any closing remarks?
I must say this has been one of my most favorite sessions, especially the topic, because being creative is living out your purpose. Because when you're in a mind frame where you, because each and every one of us are unique, isn't it? And when you can discover your uniqueness, it will require creativity. So which means living out a life that is unique to you and doing things that is unique to you, not trying to be somebody else.
Yes.
And I think we shouldn't, this conversation, we shouldn't take it lightly. I mean, even if we, take time by ourselves and just kind of like, investigate and see what sparks our creativity. Is it problems? So get more of them. Because sometimes when we have more problems, you become more creative. Is it when you by yourself? When you go for walks? What sparks your creativity? Because if you can find that place, people will be like, whoa, where did he come from? We've never seen this part of you. But the thing is, it's always been there. But we've never took out the time to discover that part of us, or actually not discover, to bring it out.
Yes.
Because creativity is already living on the inside of us, but to bring it out, that's the challenge, because we're always thinking about, oh, what are they going to say? Because creativity looks, or most of the time, creativity looks peculiar. It looks weird. It looks like something that is out of this world, which is true. You're an alien. You're not from here. You just kind of like occupied this space for now to make a difference. And for us to really make a difference, to discover who we are, apply our creativity, and and contribute. Yeah, that's what I wanted to add on that. Brilliant session, sir. Brilliant. I'm going to be like, all right, let me go and meditate on this, because this is really it's something
Yes.
else.
Yes.
Thanks for reminding us.
Thanks. Chidozie, anything from you, sir?
Yeah. Just to repeat what I'd already said earlier, but just put a little bit of flesh on it. We have had a very brilliant session tonight, which is very, very central to what we become as human beings. We have talked about curiosity. Curiosity triggers questions. We must learn to ask the right questions, not just questions. And I talked about boldness as well. We must be bold enough to go out and ask those questions. And I know why I'm asking, but why it's occurred to me that I should say this again, because if we go back to that word that we continuously use here, trademarked to Kendrick, which is being intentional, we have got to be intentional about the fact that we are creatives. I mean, we are creative. We have creativity. We are creators. That's the word I was looking for. Apologies. That we are creators. And how did we come about all these solutions that we have on Earth, be it in technology, medicine, history, whatever? It's by using creativity at points of problems, at points, or using that to tackle a certain situation. But then if we bring that home as individuals, creativity is really, really crucial if we are going to be able to solve our individual problems. So as much as we think about creativity in solving societal issues, solving some business issues, maybe marital issues and so on, we should always look at it as something that is always handy there. When you are in the middle of a situation, when you're in the middle of trouble, always for us to always remember that we are creators, and that is our creativity that's going to bring us out of that problem. That being shocked and being timid and being stuck and miserable about that situation will change nothing. But if we have that thing that's always reminding us that we are creators, and then be intentional about using that, reminding ourselves continuously that this is who we are. And when problems come, they come because we are creators, and we will be able to use the creativity we have to solve that problem. In most cases, people have solved some personal problems, and then it became something that's solving a global issue. So it's not just good for ourselves in our business, in our relationship, in our whatever, in our personal situation, but it could become something that we will then be able to share and then help others to overcome those situations. And that's what creativity is all about. But that has got to be constant. Instead of going in a shock, when that difficult situation comes about, we just key into that creative side of ours, and then see if we can start from asking questions. All right, if this happens, what will happen? How about this? Yeah. Who can I ask? Who can I speak to? And when they ask, when they tell you, being bold enough to try out things. One of these days, you break through, and that's the problem solved for yourself. That can then be rolled out, to so many people around you, and even across the world. So this is a very, 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 very important one. Thank you very much, sir.
Absolutely. Thanks, Dozy and everyone. Yeah, I think it's that ability to be intentional, so that you don't wait to make a start. Mm-hmm. And that's really good. Just to wrap up, I think we're on the top of the hour. I think some of the good things I got from you is being bold and communicating in your communication. So you don't hold back to get creativity and response from others. You have to communicate, and you have to break those barriers that stops you from doing it. And Kendrick, you mentioned even looking foolish through your curiosity, but looking foolish doesn't do anything other than if you have that as a barrier, it stops you from being creative. Mm-hmm. But even for a comedian, if he looks foolish, fine. But once people get his jokes, he's not foolish anymore.
He gets paid, bro.
He gets paid big money. He gets flown across the world, to do that. Yeah. So that's all part of it. And then Clinton, that needing isolation, absolutely necessary. Thanks for sharing that with us. And I think it was really, really, really informative for anyone who's going to listen onto this session. I hope it enriches your life as it has done for us. And also, if we can share this for more people who might become stagnant, or you think has that creativity but just needs that to be ignited, the session could be very good, hopefully. Thanks, everyone. We'll have to wrap up here. But yeah, thanks for this evening's session, and we'll be back next Wednesday.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for blessing us this evening, sir. Great job. Thank you so much. All right, guys.
Thank you.
Very grateful. Good night, guys. God bless you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.